Hello, dear travelers. Welcome back to another May I Ask Q&A, speed draw, whatever you want to call this thing. But it's been a while since I've sat down to actually answer a lot of questions. And my gosh, you have a lot of questions. Or at least there's a lot of questions that requires a long answer. So I'm going to see if I can get through most of them in this video. Hopefully we can generate a little more conversation and discussion around a few things. So just introducing the speed draw. It is Bakugo, Todoroki, and Midoriya from the Curing Headaches video. I have a fair few other recordings as well, so hopefully that I can get to creating more content with all of those materials. But let's get on with the show. Oh, excuse me. Wow. Okay. Sorry. Let's get on with the show, shall we? So this one's a first from AU Ajira Kirishima Crimson Chaos. I hope I pronounced some of that properly. But new subscriber. I've seen your comments quite often in some of the videos, and I'm very happy that you're getting amongst all of the conversation discussion happening, which is fantastic. But your question was, with Sero's Traveler, why did the Traveler nickname him Bucky? I know there was actually a reply thread following after your question. Sorry about the cough. Don't worry about it. I'll be fine. Well, I'll answer this as simply as I can. It all started with Sero's first video of his timeline chasing foxes, where his traveler, Tesoro, now, I think they've gone through 3 different nicknames at this point, but I think we're stuck with Tesoro. Which I'm happy that we are with that name. It just fits better now. So the reason why they called him Bucky is that video. So that was a video where they called him Bucky for the first time. And I think a lot of Sero fans who are aware of the timelines on this channel have that kind of knowledge. But they first called him Rabbit teasingly in the video. So like, if my memory serves me correctly, it's almost like, isn't that right, little rabbit? And the whole idea is that because they have a fox motif, it's the fox rabbit kind of dynamic that they were trying to tease Sero about. But I think Sero made mention after that was more like Midoriya. That was more like Deku. I'm not Deku, so why are you calling me that? And I know it's a little bit meta saying it that way, but I found it really funny. It was that kind of banter. After that conversation, Traveler then switches it up to Bucky, of which Sero had no argument against the nickname, or he's not mentioned anything wrong, or he's not mentioned anything like, I guess, to his dislike about the name. I think he just kind of waved it off, and the Traveler's just taken it as the nickname for Sero ever since. Now, the lame thing is, I hoped and I wished that there was more meaning behind the reason why this nickname was chosen, but the lame thing, really, at the end of the day, is that the reason why the Traveler ended up changing it to Bucky is because a buck is a male rabbit. So it's still going along the lines of them teasing him like a little rabbit. Otherwise, with all the comments that are going around, I still love how everyone just attuned the nickname Bucky to Bucky Barnes, which is from Marvel, because Marvel is amazing. But, you know, it's the Traveler's way of keeping the rabbit motif on Sero. So, yeah. I wish it was more meaningful, but that's where it all started, and it just became a thing. And I really liked it, really, at the end of the day, that this Traveler does have a nickname for Sero, as opposed to the other way around, which does occur anyway. So I hope that answers that question. Lauren Moss had asked quite a fairly lengthy Not a lengthy question, just a question that could be lengthy in a way. The answer, I mean, sorry. But they asked, how did I come up with all the traveler's quirks? And also in regards to Tokoyami as a second question, how, were they born blind? Or was there some horrible accident that caused them to go blind? So let's first start off with Tokoyami's traveler, because that's a pretty small answer. There is a backstory with his traveler's blindness. So I only made one video with Tokoyami, and I really want to continue on with that if I can, or if I may. But it's like, it's a matter of, I see it like, well, first off, his traveler's called Beloved, so he will always call them Beloved. But when you first mentioned horrible accident to cause them to go blind, my first thought was Daredevil. And as much as I love Daredevil, it's not, unfortunately. So in short, they were born blind. This traveler was born blind. However, that's the reason why they could activate their quirk that works in hand with their blindness. And there is a certain backstory about their quirk and how their relationship with their quirk works with their relationship with the real world. And it goes hand in hand with a lot of other characters. So I will drop it here now. Tokoyami's traveler does have a certain connection to some of the members of the Splinter group, which is an Overhaul's story. So that's the reason why these stories are a little slow, because there are different connections and different things, like relationships and friendships and everything that go between these characters. So it's a matter of almost trying to make sure that everything works favorably in the story. Other than that, that's Tokoyami's traveler for you. Now, the coming up with the quirks questions. So really, there's no real process to coming up with the quirks, I think. I normally just find a basic trait and then build from that. I actually think that 2 of the quirks on the channel actually came from a character that I built last year. So what I ended up doing is that, just so then I could create these traveler templates, if you say, is that I split the quirk that I made last year into 2. In a way, it made more sense to do it that way, and it didn't overpower the quirk. I will admit that I am someone that kind of starts with a really big idea, with really big, quirk ideas, if we're going to talk about quirks. And I try to make those kind of big ideas work. But usually when it comes to character creation, and like any other kind of character creation, you start to begin to condense some of their character traits. So like, you know, if I'm talking, I'm sorry, I have to stay with the quirk idea because I am going straight into character creation. But like with quirks in general, it's like you start to begin to condense the quirk into a more simplified form, like taking away, like, I guess, the so-called fat of the quirk. And what I mean by that is that I mean to take away unnecessary things that don't build up on it. So if it's just like a fancy, I guess, like for some things, it's like if a quirk was just, if a part of a quirk was just, oh, so it just makes it look flashy and fancy and everything, I kind of take up Kirishima's like way of thinking. It's like, you know, when he says, oh, you know, quirks are always flashy, but mine isn't, it's just this plain thing. So it's kind of like, I take that as a good base example for how to build a quirk. It's like, build it from the most simplest, most basic thing, and like that's where your foundation starts. It's like, it doesn't have to be flashy, it doesn't have to be like, oh wow, it's so awe-inspiring, that kind of quirk. It's just, no, you just start with the smallest thing, then build on it. And then when you build on it, you start to think, would this work with it? Would this not work with it? How, and what's more important about the quirk generation, I believe, is that how does it help build and grow your character? Because the quirk doesn't necessarily make the character, it's like a part of them, but it's not entirely the whole, I guess. It doesn't make up the whole character build. A quirk, in a way, for me, I believe, is a trait that helps build a character, how they interact with the world, how they interact with themselves, I guess, how they see themselves, how they prove themselves with it, all of that stuff. So that's why I kind of enjoy character creation. I'm the kind of person that, like, if I played like role-playing games or like any of the sort with character creation, I will spend almost a good solid hour making a character before I start playing the game. So that's just my thing, really. If anything, writing these fanfics and stories helps build the traveler and their relationship with their quirk. That's what I feel is a little more important to me, because not only is it about the traveler's interactions with other characters of the universe, it's about their, I guess, the way they have a relationship with themselves. And I actually feel that that's also a very important thing to build on a character. I surprise myself sometimes when something down the track connects and dissects with each other, because whether it's quirk or personality or relationship wise, and it makes me so excited as a writer that things like that fall into place. So I hope that answers your question about the traveler's quirks. Stitched Heart had asked, actually, I just want to say this real quickly. It's that now that you can see the Bleach inspiration in my art, yes, absolutely. Like, Bleach was a huge, like, I guess, leap in how I drew faces and most anatomy. I'm not really that good at it still. Like, I still think I have lots to improve on. But right now I'm kind of in a very satisfactory place with my artwork. There are times where I'm like, oh, I'm in a rut, but I still need to draw stuff. And like I will say, like, the most recent like art that I've made of Darby is probably one of those ruts I had. It's kind of like, oh, it's not exactly how I would have drawn him, how I would have done him and everything, but it gets the job done. And I usually push through with that, because once I get through some ruts, then I make some pleasantly aesthetic looking pieces of work, which I'm happy with, which I will actually show eventually when we get through your questions. So, Stitched Heart, you actually asked if I would consider streaming art. I know I've done one previously, and I was drawing a Prince Todoroki piece of art on the channel, and it was a 3-hour stream because I just felt like I should try. But the problem was that, it is I don't have the greatest internet. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I really don't. I wish I did, but if I do stream my art, it may be on the Twitch channel rather than the YouTube channel. Otherwise, if I can do it on both, I would. But we'll see in the future how we go. We'll see how anything progresses on my side of the world. Anyhow. So, the two questions actually that you have is that if I had any headcanons for the travelers, seeing as it's a self-insert and I don't have superset personalities really. And the second question, well, that is very spoilerish in a way, I guess. I don't know, it depends. Well, as you can see, it's kind of blurred out on screen. Just in case if people haven't caught up with the manga. So I will say this, I have caught up with the manga. I know what's going on. But just so we'll get to that question as soon as I answer this first one. So I do I guess true, I don't give the travelers a strong personality. But I did end up having headcanons now that you mention this. So during my writings, it just fills me with so much joy that some things actually click with these headcanons. It could be from even a small headcanon like curing headaches, or it could be like during the story and flow of story when something happens and a lot of characters start interacting with each other. It just excites me when a headcanon that I thought couldn't happen does happen, and it just feels so natural. Excuse me. It just feels so natural, and I'm like, oh wow, I'm so happy. And that's just me as a writer, I guess. But let's say if I could go through each one and just give them one headcanon each, I'm going to say this. And these are only the hero travelers that I've thought of. I haven't thought of anything else. And what I mean by hero travelers, of course, is the major 7. So if anyone wants to hear more, comment down below if you'd like to hear any, if you'd like to say, I guess, yes to more, I guess, headcanons on other traveler personalities, and see how we go. So, Cutie is a real pro-hero fanatic. You wouldn't think so in most of the story with Cutie and like how they actually interact with everyone. They're kind of very, I guess, self-reliant. They kind of do things on their own, not like as a stubborn thing, but more so as I'm an independent person. But aside from that whole kind of responsible side of them, they're a real pro-hero fanatic, as seen in the babysitting video, actually. But in their adult self, they hide it better than Midoriya does. In this timeline, I still think Midoriya still has merch and proudly shows it in the smallest ways. The greatest example that I could think of really is the apron that he wore in his Christmas video, a Christmas surprise, while they're actually cooking like dinner for their friends to come over. And it's, I don't know, I just find it cute that they have something in common, and that's where the commonality kind of struck them the most, that they were good fans of All Might, I guess. Except Midoriya didn't know how strongly of a fan, I guess, Cutie could be. Love, on the other hand, loves playing with hair. No pun intended. Love loves playing with hair. And as we are watching Todoroki being built right now here in Curing Headaches, ever since being with Todoroki since UA, they actually feel so happy that they could play with his now long hair. And you can refer to Kafune for that one, as in Kafune that they were braiding his hair because of an incident that happened earlier in the day. So they like actually going through, they just like playing with hair, I guess. That's the thing. Twinkle Toes. Twinkle Toes is a free spirit, but I wouldn't say not in the hippie way, as most people would assume that turn of phrase. They just love to experience life. They don't want to feel shackled down, which is funny because they have to be shackled down so they don't fly away. But having known Bakugo since UA, and I know that like yesterday was his birthday, so there was a bit of a video release on that, and it's about their relationship as friends so far in this in that earlier timeline. But Twinkle Toes becomes a close-knit adopted friend in his circle of friends because, you know, they're not from the same school, they're not from the same, you know, I guess, you know, prefecture, if we're going to talk about in a Japanese geographical way. They're not from, I guess for most people it's like a suburb. They're not from the same suburbs and stuff. So they become like absorbed into Bakugo's circle of friends. And the one headcanon that I have and I love between Twinkle Toes and his friends is that they have found a bro, like a bruh in Kirishima. So it's like they become so friendly with everyone. But as people, I don't know if you've listened to the earlier videos of Bakugos, which is, I think, Belated Star-Crossed Fools is one, and recently now Challenge Accepted, is that he's starting to feel these emotions that make him question, in a way. It's kind of like when Twinkle Toes ends up hanging out with somebody else, he just feels something and he feels angry about it and he doesn't know why. And I don't know, I'm just gonna play with that trope, and I really like that trope. Thumper. It's been highlighted in the last Q&A video because someone's actually had a headcanon about it, which I totally agree with, and I was happy that they agreed with, that they hit the nail on the head, really, is that Thumper dances when no one is watching, or thinks no one is watching. They use music to help them focus when they train their quirk. Or otherwise when they want to relieve stress. They're the kind of person, I'd say, it's like if they were in a lounge room, they would dance in a lounge room despite what time of day it is or whatever. You know, they just need to let out this energy and keep moving. That's what I see Thumper doing. Kitten. I'm really sorry to say this about Kitten. Kitten, out of the Travelers, does get hit on quite a lot, and that's the headcanon I have. An example is actually in the I'm Glad You're Here video with Shinso at the bar. So the headcanon is that Kitten and Shinso would hang out at bars. Of course, like, drink responsibly. I will say that first and foremost, you drink responsibly, but they just go there to chill and relax and enjoy the atmosphere. That's pretty much it. But when Kitten's at a bar, they get hit on quite a bit, and they would politely turn down every advance they receive before they outright say no if the individual couldn't or did not take the hint the first few times. Their quirk comes in handy like this because they could most likely read surface thoughts of someone approaching them, and immediately they would just say no. And that's the kind of thing I see Kitten doing when, you know, they want to have a good time, but, you know, of course, with the significant other. Tesoro, I think, Tesoro isn't always active. Like, again, their quirk requires constant food sustenance, so they try to do as less work as possible, but they try to see if they can get a good payback out of it. So Tesoro's quirk makes, I guess what they do is that they do a quick scheme kind of pickpocketing fun, just by using their quirk to take small items off of people, because I know that a lot of people know that Tesoro travels through light from point A to point B. However, in the Art of War, which is a video where Sero's chasing after Tesoro at this point, Tesoro is able to actually move objects from point A to point B using light. There's a good example in the Art of War where, to distract Sero, they've sent a ball of light and traveled like a canister or a barrel, of which Sero assumed it was them traveling through light and tried to stop them, but got distracted because of that. So Tesoro would just steal small items using their quirk and not having to move so much, so not having to exert so much energy with their body. It does slow them down afterwards though, because they are using their quirk, but it makes for a quick payday, so that makes up for the loss of their quirk, and then they could probably replenish with as much food as they want later. So that's Tesoro for you. They usually do something which requires less energy to do. And finally, Monange. Monange is a creature of habit, I see. In a few of the readings with Kaminari, they would constantly reread books again and again because they've read it before, and if there was nothing else to do, they are more than happy to. Creature of habit, always rereads or rewatches things. You know how like some people I don't know, some people can binge a show, but then if there's nothing else to watch, they will just rewatch the show all over again because it was either entertaining or otherwise they knew what was happening. So it's like a comfort thing, I guess. So Monange is kind of like that. And I think that if you applied this to like them roaming around, they would always walk the same trails. They will hardly make new paths and discoveries. They will hardly discover like a new, I guess, different way of getting there because they've gotten so used to just the one, I guess, path. So this will be extremely interesting because when I thought of this headcanon for Monange, it's actually a strong part of their personality now that I look at it, because future videos are definitely going to test them on that. But I'm gonna like stop there before I mention anything further. Anyhow, now that we've gotten some of that out of the way, those are some of the headcanons I think if they were to have some kind of personality to them. But the second question, which I actually blurred out earlier, is because it is part of the manga. So it is a bit of a spoiler. So for those of you who haven't experienced it or have don't experience the manga for My Hero, I'd suggest that you skip to the next question now. You have been warned. Skip now. I mean it. Okay, so everyone who has read the manga is still here? Okay, good. So for those of you who have followed the manga, Stitched Heart had mentioned that they wondered actually how, I guess, Cutie in a way would react in this kind of universe if Midoriya left UA and if Midoriya decided not to graduate UA because of all the events that happened in the manga, and kind of do his own thing, like in a way has turned slightly vigilante. So that had inspired me so much to write something beautifully angsty, responding to what Midoriya's actions would be in that universe, and I hope to release that on this channel very soon. So here's the thumbnail. The link to the piece of writing is in the description below. I will see if I can make a video out of that soon. Okay, thanks, bye. Amari had asked that I had stated that Shinso's Traveler does play a big role in each AU because of Seek. This is for the lore and theorists out there, if anyone is listening to this. They wanted to ask if the reason why Seek couldn't fix the villain AU was because it was too late. Because Bakugo and Kirishima had already broken Shinso's Traveler beyond repair, so he couldn't use them to help him. So, long story short, yes, that is absolutely true, but there's a bigger role that plays around with the villain AU, which I hope that, I know there's plenty of people who have actually requested part 2s for some of the ones that exist, but I really do want to write the villain AU because I don't know, it's not going to be a huge, big, giant, long series. The only reason it's going to be a big, long series is because there's multiple characters that occur in there, but it'll be almost a short, I guess, good look into what the villain AU is like for all of you listeners out there, but also for the lore and theorists out there, a good, I guess, in-depth insight into what is going on. So keep an ear out for that. Just a Random Alec had asked about Volpone. I hope I pronounced that right. I'm not going to start like falling over, like I'm not going to start pulling my tongue out because of that. Tesoro, really. but had asked about Hunter Zero and what he would do if, for whatever reason, he was told to go alongside another hero after Tesoro. Yes, Just a Random Alec is also the one who had explained about pronouncing all of these names, which I totally agree. It's just sometimes if I'm in conversation and I try to say something, it'll come out wrong. So I'm really sorry. It's just, it does come down to practice, and I'm not very good with accents sometimes. So I hope I don't offend anybody. But to answer your question, Alec, that is a dilemma that Zero's actually going to have to face in the future. Way! I mean, after all, if we're talking about another hero who needs to chase down Tesoro, Midoriya has information about that certain member of a robbery that lost the getaway in No Rest for the Wicked. Midoriya is also the one who had been talking about Tesoro in One Step Forward when he went on a hiking trip with Cutie and they were talking about work for a bit. So, yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? I can't wait. Kuetamok, Temok, Carboni. We're gonna call you Carboni. Carboni had asked if the travelers were incorrect quotes, how would you describe them with incorrect quotes? And also, do some travelers live with their partners, such as Love living with Shoto and Cutie living with Midoriya? So, first and foremost, now that you've mentioned incorrect quotes, I have actually collated a few together. So expect a video to come out following this train of thought for fun, because I'm gonna need some fun eventually when I make some of the content. Yay! Thank you so much, Carboni. But with the living arrangements, I would say the only ones who live together with travelers are Midoriya and Shinso, actually. I guess my headcanons are that they would make those choices in their relationships, whereas Todoroki and Bakugo, for example, still live in separate living arrangements from their travelers. And it's just because I see them actually living with their partners or live with their travelers after marriage. Wink, wink. Other than Kirishima and Sero, who also live separate from their travelers, Sero especially, considering it's that kind of relationship he has right now. The only one left is Kaminari, and well, their travelers under house arrest because of the commission, so they really have no other choice. And Kaminari made that decision himself, that out of the cell into his home kind of thing. So, yay! Subbed or dubbed, and what weird or random likes or dislikes or habits the travelers have? Well, weird habits. Would the headcanons I mentioned earlier constitute for some of them, I guess? I hope that answers some of it. It's just another headcanon that I haven't really thought about or haven't really hyperfixated over as of yet. So if I do, maybe in a future Q&A, I will be able to discuss more on that. Otherwise, about subbed or dubbed animes, I don't mind either as long as I'm able to enjoy the content, I guess. But if we're gonna have to go with initial thoughts, I normally watch the subs before dubs, and that's not because I have a preference for subs, it's more because, well, the subs come out first, usually before dubs. Nowadays, not so much, because the, big giant internet can send everything all at once, and everything gets released all at the one time, and oh my god. But I usually watch the subs anyway, and maybe that's partly because, before dubs I mean, I watch both, but I guess it's because I've grown up watching really terrible dubs years ago, and those dubs back years ago, which I know doesn't happen now, but they've ruined the story for me for most anime. So I ended up watching a lot of the subs. Cardcaptor Sakura is the biggest influence for me to watch subs before dubs, and that's partly because the dub butchered the entire story. And at first I believed the dub that that's the true story of Cardcaptor Sakura until I read up about it, and then I was like, I feel so cheated. Why? So really, I just watch subs before dubs. That's it. Akemi had asked about Shinso's Traveler, what hero name they would have and what their hero costume would have been before becoming an interrogator in the commission. So in a past Q&A video, I listed hero names for the Travelers that I thought would fit them. They are kind of like, it's kind of like my headcanon. Like anyone could make a name for the hero name, but it is my headcanon how I've portrayed the names for some of these Travelers. But I guess I had never mentioned Shinso's Traveler's hero name in the last one, particularly because I didn't know if it fit. But now that I've given a fan hero name to Shinso, because we know canonically he doesn't have a hero name yet, I guess the original name that I've given his Traveler now could work. So while his is Persona, which was released in the babysitting video for Shinso, that's his hero name, his Traveler's hero name is Pathos. So Persona and Pathos. I kind of think it works now. I love alliteration sometimes, so I think it works pretty well. So when it comes to the hero costume for Shinso's Traveler, because they were in UA during their education, their hero outfit, because of the way their quirk worked, was simply a suit and tie. So that was pretty much it. I wouldn't say that it wasn't as slightly flashy as Monoma's suit and tie. So Monoma's got like this, like I think he's got like the coattails and everything and all that. Theirs is just nice, simple, sleek, just very, I guess it's just their way to dress to impress in a way. I mean, all they do is read minds, really. Although now, come to think about it, now it makes sense why villain Shinso dresses in a suit. Anyway, Shala Nadazia, I hope I pronounced that right, I'm really sorry, had asked if I was in the MHA world, would I be a hero, vigilante, or a villain? Or something else entirely? Also, thank you so much for your kind words. I really appreciate, I love creating the content that I do, and it just, I don't know. I just enjoy the process. But sorry, digressing. If I were to answer your question, I don't know if you mean personally or the Mayday character herself, sorry. But I know if personally I was in the MHA world, I wouldn't know what I'd be. As much as I'd love to glorify myself as a hero or as a villain or as a vigilante, I think I'd be neither of these things, to be honest. I'd be someone supporting the greater cause of what's going on. I'd be a support character for sure. I'd be the kind of person that's in a oh my gosh, I love this idea now that it's popped in my head. I'd be like the receptionist that's at a desk job but gets constant calls from heroes for emergency calls, like saying, we need this, we need that, this person's injured, can you get help, can you do this, can you do that, we've caught someone, blah blah. And it's like the help desk and channeling different calls out to different things and making notes and filing things away. I don't know, I feel like I'd be that kind of person because I love organization when it's I love to organize things, but it can be so excruciating when people don't see the value of organizing things. So I don't know, that's how I'd see myself in the world if I were there. Oof, this one's a doozy. So I have been asked a question actually about the channel by Sergeant 102105. simply put together, it's basically about fanfic submissions, art submissions, different fandoms for the channel, and so on and so forth. So let's explain. About fanfic submissions. Actually, the first question was basically, will I come back to just reading other fanfics other than, like, I guess the timeline stories that I've been making? At the moment, I do have a handful of readings that need to be recorded, edited, and put together that have been submitted from other writers who I have conversed with and have been gracious enough, actually, to be allowed the honor to read their work for the channel. So that's fantastic. I know there's a long series that was given to me, like, I guess earlier this year, and I only just started recording it, and I'm just trying to, I guess, organize everything before it gets released on the channel. And there are a few other writings that were given by other writers who are more than happy for me to read. So I feel very grateful for that, actually. But lately, now that the real world has been picking up every now and then, so I couldn't make time to read more fics online, or I couldn't make time to actually go out and enjoy some reading for myself. Between writing some headcanon stories of my own and recording, editing, drawing thumbnail art and such, it's a bit of a balancing act. And I know a lot of people had said, like, for content creators, we're basically the opposite of content consumers. So we create content now. It's difficult to now consume content, which is an irony, but, you know, that's a different, like, discussion altogether. I'm more than happy to hear from others who would like their work to be read. And there really isn't an official way to submit fics. But many people have either commented on my videos about certain ones, reached out to me on other platforms like Instagram, or Discord, if ever I get myself active back on there again. But right now, I think it's best to reach out to me on Wattpad, as I now have an account there. So feel free to reach out however you feel is best. Some readings as of late have been possible because people had commented for me to see. And also when it comes to fanfic submissions, it's I usually like, if I do make time to read it for myself to enjoy, I would like to do that and then, like, be a part of that community again. But other than that, we will see how this process goes. Who knows? I might be able to make a, I guess, way to submit fics. If possible. I'm not sure yet. Art submissions, though. So if artwork had been possible in the past because artists had reached out to me primarily when, at the time I started, or I noticed artwork and reached out to the artists themselves if they would like to help me with a video. And again, every time I did that, it was never an obligation. It was just sometimes just me putting myself out there to ask, and if they felt uncomfortable with it, then I completely understood. So most of that was very recent. But again, with art submissions, I guess feel free to reach out to me. Right now, I guess I've just been enjoying the art process myself, which is why I've been, as you can see, been drawing quite a bit. It's actually like my happy place, so I enjoy doing that. And yeah, that pretty much sums up that. Other fandoms, though, well, yeah, I will admit that I'm trapped in the My Hero universe at the moment, and I had branched out a little, so I guess my one-track mind is stuck here in My Hero unless I hyperfixate about a headcanon for another fandom and start writing feverishly about that. So on the side, I have been writing others like Fruits Basket, or on High School Host Club and Haikyuu, along with Genshin Impact, but seeing the number on that list continue to grow sometimes gets overwhelming, and then I just revert back to the My Hero writings, because in a way, as a writer, it's somewhere where I feel comfortable and where I feel like I know where the story's going, whereas the others I'd still have to sit and mull and think of, I guess, more time on that. But yeah, again, the same applies to other fanfic writers. That again, I'm more than happy to read other fandoms, but I haven't actively searched for them yet. I hope that answers all of the channel questions right there. So we'll see in the future. If anything were to happen, I'll most likely mention it in my own community post. Question: is Bakugo's Traveler from another school? Yep. Bakugo's Traveler was from a different school, from another school, and I think I mentioned it earlier in one of the headcanons that they were like that too. So there's no details as to what school it is, partly because I feel like that isn't the most important part of the story. But just knowing that they only know UA for face value outside of its walls before learning how rich it is helps them grow their understanding around the academy, but also their relationships with the students there as well. So it's something I really enjoy. It's like character building. I love it. And the last two questions I'm going to merge together because it's primarily about Darby and Darby's Traveler, and the fact that why Darby's Traveler hasn't lost their sanity yet, considering all the things that have happened to them, and questioning about how their relationship with Darby actually works. So I'm going to say that there are reasons why, and the Doctor is one of the major reasons behind it, and that's the best way I could say it. If I went on any further, it might give away a bit more character development ideas, but like, let's just say the Doctor was a mediator, because the Doctor herself is like a counselor in a way. It's probably also the reason why, even though the Traveler has some suspicions about the Doctor, still trusts the Doctor with their judgment about like a lot of things. And it's the same that goes with Darby, because Darby has like a relationship with the Doctor as well. Not in that way. It's kind of like, I guess from a professional sense, he does have one with her. But also to end it, and I'm sorry to end it on a very angsty note, the question attached to these Darby ones also says, because of an angsty thought, let's just say this: how would the partners react to Traveler dying? Well, I'm not going to explain it in here, but I'm definitely going to make a non-canon video about that, because to be honest, I did have a headcanon about that kind of thing. So that'll be very interesting to write and record and show you guys in future. Wow, okay, I guess that's all the questions over the past couple of weeks finally covered in this video. These ones are getting to be an hour long, and I'm really sorry if it sounds like I'm ranting a lot and everything. If you prefer these to be much more shorter bites and questions, please comment down below, just letting me know. Also, please hit the like button if you would like to hear, I guess, more headcanons about the Travelers, because maybe I might be able to either work on videos like that, or we can have more of a discussion like this as well. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed listening to any rhyme and reason I have today and this week. But I also hope you enjoyed watching Bakugo, Todoroki, and Midoriya, as cute and as loving as they could be. Thank you for visiting, I would say. Please keep asking. #MayIAsk. See you soon.